Today, we're going to be tackling one of those big high point debt issues. Before we get started on it, I just want us to have a little think about these questions. Are you a high frequency user of credit? Do you have many hire purchases, store cards, and catalog accounts that you use? Do you rely on these streams of credit to maintain your lifestyle? How credit saturated is too saturated? What would you do if your credit bubble exploded or imploded? Is there any chance of bursting your debt bubble successfully and intentionally? We're going to try and see how we can decipher these questions today. Welcome back to Ira Living. I'm Kenya, and today we're going to be looking at answering the question, can we actually burst our debt or credit bubble? So just so we know, I will use the words interchangeably, debt and credit, meaning pretty much one and the same. The credit bubble was developed due to high quality consumer or business loans, debt instruments, and other forms of credit. A large number of the population in the West are walking around with huge credit bubbles around them. These are rather high interest loans, store cards, catalog accounts, and credit cards that they are struggling to carry. The boom of the credit card brought in all manner of credit options, and consumers are so smitten with the own it before you can afford it mentality that they take up these opportunities on just about everything, whether it is an appreciating or depreciating asset or just plainly a form of liability. For many, it is so easy to buy things on credit. The joy of owning things long before they can afford them had been a great incentive for many. They fail to question the real mechanism behind that awesome sounding privilege, and they become stuck on an ever-rotating cog that churns individuals into nothingness if they are naive enough to get sucked into its gears. The culture of "I'll charge it" is so normalized that people consider that before any other option. The level of bankruptcy and individual voluntary arrangements, IVA, are increasing, and still creditors are making credit available to individuals who should not have access to such lines of credit. It is so easy to get access to a set of credit cards that people use credit card to shift money around to make payments like a game of pass around donkey. I knew someone who was so sucked into the credit scheme that he had every medium of credit conceivable and achievable. He's used hire purchase, car leasing, catalog accounting, overdraft limits, credit cards, and store cards on rotation, just to name a few. He changes to the newest, flashiest car frequently, wears a three-piece suit to work, experiences a life of luxury whilst rotating debts, paying minimum payments on credit cards and store cards, paying rent, and living considerably above his means. He is so far sucked into the credit world that his bubble is spilling over on others. However, people like these are snowed under and don't seem to be able to figure out a way of escape, although most of them don't even seem to want to. The question is, can individuals actually burst their debt bubble? The answer is absolutely. It will take some reconditioning of our minds, some behavior and routine changes. Nevertheless, it is totally possible. Here are some steps as to how to make it your reality. Number one, decide that you are regaining your financial liberty, and be aware that to do so will require some sacrifices. Make a list of at least 5 things that you can sacrifice without experiencing massive withdrawals, and start there. This could be as simple as reducing your weekend amount of takeaways that you do so that you make a higher than minimum payment on your existing credit. It could also be downsizing your wardrobe or rehauling your lifestyle altogether so that you are able to save a little bit more to clear off some of that debt. Number 2, choose not to take on any new credit. Instead, what you will need to do is to limit your indulgence into things that are free. So look in your local for things that are free entertainment and free activities that you can do, which means you will then cut back your entertainment budget and use that to help with paying off some of your debt. It would also be a good point to contact your creditors and ask them to reduce your limits as you are making your payments, and thereby reduce your likelihood to become tempted to spend again. Number 3, become creative. Another approach is to ensure that you select some of your clothing that are staple colors and learn how to mix and match to make various suits. This way, you will reduce the need to buy new season releases. Simply replace shirts or blouses when their colors begin to fade. This way, you will be able to better manage your store cards and catalog accounts. Again, once you're paying down the credit, contact these stores or catalog and ask them to reduce your limit. 4th, invest in personal development. What you want to do here is to ask yourself why it is that you're pushing to use these lines of credit. What does it do for your self-esteem, your ego, and the impression that you desire to leave with others? Understanding the why is a hard process of introspection. However, it's absolutely critical. It will help you to better understand the driving force behind the ballooning bubble of credit that is rapidly growing around you, and will enable you in figuring out how to burst it intentionally and successfully. Number 5, take accountability. This requires you to be real about the size of your credit bubble and how unmanageable it has become. Realize that it is your doing by taking responsibility. Then be accountable for implementing the strategies to gradually and steadfastly reduce the bubble. Remember, we're not saying that lines of credit are a bad thing if you know how to manage using people's money instead of your own, whilst avoiding paying the hefty interest rates that comes with such a privilege. Equally, there might be some points of emergency where accessing credit might be crucial. Nevertheless, be present in mind to recognize that it's not for long term and certainly not to be a way of living. It's like living on borrowed time when the skills to utilize credit to your advantage is absent and the knowledge to do so was never acquired. Creditors rely on this level of ignorance and gullibility to trap people for longer in a snowballing debt bubble. Take charge of your credit bubble. Consciously release the air from it and regain your sound financial footing. Remember, financial literacy is revolutionary. It has transformed my life, and I believe it can do the same to yours.